A lot of these kids come from good families with good values, and we need to do that. And I tell the ladies, with legacy, you have to speak, you have to tell your child's story.
Welcome to the Black Appalachian Coalition's podcast entitled Black Remembering, where we will bring to you the heavy and the hope across the Ohio River Valley. We want to remember who we are, where we've come from. We want to speak to the oral history of what we've done, what we've achieved. We want to speak to the ills that we have experienced while also finding solutions to those problems, those issues. We want to deal with the narrative that has kept us deeply rooted in despair. Now we want to punch through that narrative and stand up and say, we are remembering our Black past, and we are rooted, and we are here to stay. Welcome to Black Remembering. We hope that you find your place, your space, and your voice in this podcast.
Thank you, Tina, for joining us on the Black Podcast. I would just like you to introduce yourself to the community so they get to know who you are, become familiar with your work.
Okay, my name is Tina Ford, born and raised from Clairton, PA. I have 5 years of being a founder of a group called Moms of Murdered Sons, and it was established in 2019. I'm also have 20 years plus experience being a CNA worker.
And how has your CNA work helped you serve the community better?
It helps me to be a little bit more caring and understanding, I guess, the senior citizen generation, and just listening to the wisdom that they have to offer to us in our community, and just being helpful and knowing and learning how to deal with death. That was the most important lesson that I'm learning.
I think you and I both have that in common with the murder of your son and then the recent murder of my son. And I'm thankful to have you in places, unfortunately, like this, but we need to have someone who's strong enough to address the issues and have people really talk it through. So I'm thankful for your mom's group in that space.
Yes, thank you.
In this job that I'm doing, I'm collecting stories to make sure that our communities aren't forgotten. You know how the Blair Heights projects housing was torn down, and there's a business over top of it now, which is a crane business. And we see this happening in our communities where they come and change the scope of the community. We're forgotten and usually pushed off to the side. Do you see that in Clairton happening, or do you feel something different is going to take place?
No, I do see how Clairton is starting really to not be as family oriented like it used to be. I used to always see the sign that says the city of prayer, and not looking at it as a bad thing, but prayer reminds me of our churches, because we always had our churches. It always was a go-to.
Right.
Anytime you needed anything, we always went to our churches. And I see now that what kept us together was the baby boomers, like my mom's generation, your parents' generation, that really kept us together. And now that they are leaving town or they're passing away or whatever, now it's like, who are they passing the torch to? And the people who they supposed to pass the torch to don't really seem to care or love or value Clairton like we was taught to do.
Definitely, I understand that. And how does your group encourage, mothers to share their story? I know that it's a difficult thing. I know that repeating it can sometimes make us more emotional. But what do you think the best platform of the moms group to help people, to encourage people? How did you get that to work for you? Because storytelling is vital in policy making, as you well know. So these stories can very well reach the tables of our senators and our president as you gather them.
I focused on legacy because I wanted people to know who my son was and where he came from. We can't always let the media interpret who our children are. Like, I birthed him, raised him. Every bit of his teachings came from me. So it meant a lot to me for people to understand what type of person he is, his character. Because I see a lot of people that, when the media reports a murder, they give you the basics. So a lot of times you take on your own opinion. It's a drug deal going bad. Sometimes people be like, oh, they was a bad kid. This is what happens. You live by the street, you die by the street. But no, a lot of these kids come from good families with good values. And we need to do that. And I tell the ladies, with legacy, you have to speak, you have to tell your child's story. And you don't have to tell the story of when your child was murdered. My son has 23 years he was with me. That is 23 years of stories that I can tell each time I tell somebody about my son.
Yeah.
So it's very important for us to know ourselves as well as knowing our children. We know right from wrong. We taught them right from wrong. They knew right from wrong. But sometimes the tools that you provide your kids and you teach them, once they leave your home, it's up to them to either keep that value or they're going to follow their friends or do. Because everybody, we all did it. Growing up, me and Mel, we weren't allowed in the projects. But of course, we went because it was fun. But as we got older, we understood why not go in there. Not saying everybody's bad in there. It's just not where we was raised. You know, you stay within your community, your street, and your area, and that's what you do. But I tell them, I encourage them. And when they can't seem to speak or talk about their child or a story, then they're not really ready for my group, but we keep the doors open for them.
And that's a blessed thing. I think we need that space, especially, with the 2018 School of Social Work report, it stated that the average life expectancy of Black women in Pittsburgh is only 60 years old. And you and I know, just living here in Clairton, we've buried women earlier than 60 years old. How are you maintaining yourself, taking good self-care so that you can be steadfast in your work and also decide who you'd like to pass the torch to make sure someone is carrying on this torch in the community?
Now at my age, unfortunately, it took me to be in my 50s to understand it. But if it doesn't bring me joy or happiness, I have to let it go. No
Yes.
disrespect to anybody, but sometimes you just have to leave people where they're at. I'm learning that now. And sometimes this is not good for you. Then sometimes you just have to leave that too. My dad always taught me the pros and the cons. If the pros weigh out the cons or vice versa, then sometimes that's your decision right there.
Right.
And it helps a lot through life, through jobs, friendship, boyfriends, or whatever it is may be. No disrespect to anybody, but to grow, you have to leave some things behind. But then also you have to have the mind to grow. You cannot grow if you're not willing to separate like constructive criticism versus destructive criticism. And it's a difference because some people will talk to you, try to help you, not try to hurt you. So we all have to learn the difference between that. And also, too, we have to learn to agree to disagree. So I do a lot of self-care. I probably do too much of it, but, I take myself out to dinner and it's okay. Because I used to be like, why is that person eating by themselves? Are they lonely? No, they're just comfortable within their skin. They're comfortable with their self and it's okay. So I go to the movies, I go out to dinner and I move by myself, which is okay. Not that I'm lonely and I don't have friends. It's just sometimes I'm okay within myself, within my skin. So 60, I mean, that's a really eye opener for a Black woman to live till 60, but I get it because we take on so much. During the death of my son, I'm like, everybody leans on me, but who can I lean on?
Right.
Because sometimes I'm so private that I feel like they don't want to listen, they don't understand, but they do. But I just have to learn how to just be like, hey, I need help. Hey, listen to me. You know what I mean? And it's okay. I mean, too, we get so many people. I have so many moms that call me and I'm like, I'm listening. But then I'm like, where am I dropping my load off to? You know what I mean?
Right.
What's helping me release? So I get it when they say we live to 60 because we got to raise kids by ourselves. We got to cook, we got to clean, we got to survive. Kids want Jordans. They need haircuts. They got to go to school. They sick. We got to take off. We got to work overtime. I mean, sorry, but we got to leave these kids sometimes home by themselves. Sometimes we got to have our 12-year-old, raise that 4 or 5-year-old because we don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
But this is what we have to do to stay above water. And we don't complain as much. Maybe we should, or a lot of women are private. We just want to do it ourselves. And then, to have your kid grow up and disrespect you, you know what I mean? Not appreciate you. And it's just crazy. It's a lot on our shoulders as Black women. So I get it. 60. I get it.
Absolutely. That's why we have this podcast. I think right now we're honoring what's heavy, but also identifying the hope. And that's where I feel like I honor and respect you so much because out of your pain, you created a purpose. You created something to stand on, not just for yourself, but other mothers. And in a way, it's also healing for you, because as you go through it, you get to look and see and assess where you are, where you'd like to be, and help those other mothers to assess themselves, that real check-in, not just asking, how are you doing, but really giving that space and that pause to listen to more than okay or I'm good. Because I think that as Black women, we're always taught to be okay and good with situations. Don't express what you really feel. Black don't crack. So you look beautiful on the outside, but in the inside, you're thinking, where is my shoulder that I can lean on? Where is that comforting ear that would listen? We would always hope that this would never have to happen or exist, but I would just hope to see that you have more support in creating this type of space for others so that they can look to it. And let's start having it available before mothers experience death so that they can pivot. We can start looking at how we're living versus looking at how we're dying. Yeah, that's what my Archbishop always says. Look, stop looking at the symptoms. And that really allows us to address people, to listen to them intently and gauge the policymakers to what's really needed. It's not just a one and done, right? You can't just say we need to remove all bullets. There's a lot that goes into this. And like you said, we have our children. Sometimes we don't have the community to support how we're trying to raise our children. So they see other youth being raised differently and they feel like they're missing out and they don't realize it's actually not safe and it can be harmful. And I see that a lot in our community still, especially with the new faces. So if you had a magic wand, what would you change about Clairton, or what would you return to in Clairton if you could?
The village.
Yes.
Definitely the village. I think that's what made me who I am today. And it spoiled you. I mean, there was times where we knew we weren't allowed to be chasing the boys. Hey, are you allowed to do that? Or be out, after the
Right.
street lights. But it showed they care. At the end of the day, you had the older ladies that'd be like, hey, you ain't got no business doing that. Let me get you a ride home. Or, what are you doing? Come on in here. I got a popsicles for y'all. It was the community. And I loved it because everywhere you went, there was somebody always looking out for you. And you always got good teachings.
Yes.
Even though we would run and be like, we don't like her. We have to respect her because you'd be like, she was mean, but she'd give us popsicles or, she'd let us sit on her porch, stuff like that. But
right.
I would love to bring back the village.
Yes. Yes. And I see you doing that, Tina. I do. I really do. I'm thankful for you and I'm grateful and I'm so happy that you shared your story with us. And if you think of any other stories to share, please invite me to share them with the community. We are looking at all the Appalachian states and wanting to connect. There are so many things that I think we all can gather together and support each other with our stories, but also that pain to purpose. Once we look at what comes out of that pain, we can find our purpose. It's not to say that the pain no longer exists. It's just to say that I think we operate differently once we acknowledge it, once we're working through it, and it doesn't maybe sting as much as we grow and as we use our hands and our minds to do the work of creating that new purposeful experience. And we're still allowed to have pain, and I think that's what your group lets us realize. We don't have to be in a certain space at a certain time. That recovery from grief, it's different for everybody. And that's another thing most mothers need to know. There isn't a day where you may wake up and say, I can deal with this. You may never want to deal with it, but your mind and body can find a way to keep getting through, to have the story to tell and share and hopefully change policy. So I'm very grateful for your nonprofit and for all the work you do. And I just thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.